Welcome back to SJU on this fabulous, very real Friday. Yes, it is Friday today. Fan Friday, that is. We got a ton to talk about, guys. The Joker is just as profitable as Avengers Infinity War. And for those of you guys who are screaming at your TVs/computers/phones already, don't worry. We will explain exactly what that means. Also, Netflix is calling El Camino a massive success. Well, where are the numbers to prove that, Netflix? I guarantee you will never see them, but we're going to break down what that means also. And there is going to be an amazing interview with Robert Pattinson at the very end, and fan questions, of course, but I'm not here alone. Joined by Ed Greer.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I decided to do a wave. I'm doing a new thing, Roxy. Jeez.
I kind of liked it. I mean, ranking that way. I don't know if I would say it was more of a wave or kind of you just lifted the hand.
I'm proving I'm alive.
I feel like to be a wave, there's got to be some movement to it.
I'm weekend and burnizing myself.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's fine.
I'm always the queen. Isn't that who does that?
Yeah, that's the queen wave.
Thank you very much. Emma Fyffe with a beautiful queen wave herself.
Yes, I'm also here.
And Dan Murrell, of course, the person who agrees with me on all of the things.
Dan's queen wave is pretty good there.
I don't know. It kind of looks more like a twitch.
You gotta get like a little more height to it.
Like
yeah.
What Dan did that none of us did was incorporate the chair. We all had that chair situation that we could do, but none of us did it. Dan, I think your wave takes the cake.
Thank you.
Is that the second time I've said takes the cake in the last 10 minutes?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever said that before. You live, you learn. All right, let's get into this first story, guys, because Infinity War is something that has been a massive success, and now saying that the Joker is equally as profitable. You guys are probably like, what the heck does that mean? This is via Deadline, but also via Dan Murrell's brain, because we're definitely going to be picking that a ton. Joker is poised to make at least $464 million in profit after global theatrical, TV, and home entertainment windows, and it could be more if the worldwide box office for the Todd Phillips directed movie exceeds $900 million. That amount of profit isn't that far from what Avengers Infinity War racked up last year in Black Ink. That pick made $500 million, but was more expensive with the production cost and global P&A of $500 million. So that's exactly the key here. This is about how much profit, not how much money necessarily was made off of it. Off the bat, Dan, hearing this, were you surprised by this at all? Did this make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, it's a phenomenally successful movie, no matter how you cut it. But it has the advantage of having cost, production budget wise, Joker cost a third or less than Infinity War.
It was $70 million.
Around $70 million. Infinity War's budget around $200 million or more.
Yeah.
Before you add in promotion, advertising, and all that stuff. So number one, it makes sense that because Infinity War is just a much costlier movie to make. Secondly, because of the nature of Joker's success, while it was very heavily promoted, much of its success has been based on news, based on word of mouth. That's also called free publicity. So you have a much lower spend for advertising and promotion. Joker is one of those movies that is a success, not just because of the quality of the film, but because it is a legitimate cultural conversation, cultural moment, which Infinity War was as well, but in a different way. Infinity War was an all-out promotional blitz. It was an event before it hit theaters. It was, it was almost like the Super Bowl. Joker is very much more like behaving a little bit more like a drama. Or a surprise hit, even though it's a Joker movie, well, it was coming. But
it's not like there were 400 movies leading up to that specific Joker movie.
They're different paths. So, when we say making the same profit, it's like, yes, Joker will make substantially less worldwide as far as raw box office dollars than Infinity War did. But because the production costs are so much lower and because it costs less to promote and advertise it, they'll be taking home about the same amount of money.
Emma, Black Panther's profit was $476.8 million. Aquaman's was $260.5 million. Are you surprised that Joker is so much closer to that Black Panther profit than it is that Aquaman profit?
I'm actually not, simply because, and Dan was touching on this a little bit, the sort of cultural phenomenon of the Joker movie that, we were basically being presented with this film that, as you say, Dan, is performing much more like a drama or something that's not part of like a bigger superhero universe. Obviously, Black Panther benefited from being part of the MCU, so that already was part of that whole event culture that surrounds all of those Marvel films. But as far as the Joker goes, I mean, it was one of those things where there was a lot of free publicity surrounding this film. And I think because of, certain statements made by, say, the director of the film and whatnot, that it kind of, it was very polarizing, but polarizing isn't necessarily a bad thing, because whenever you're polarizing people, there's one group of people that feels very strongly on the positive, and so you're going to draw all of those people in. And then even your people that are feeling very strongly on the negative, like, they see it out of curiosity. They see it to prove that they are right.
If they want to know what they're talking about, they have to see that they...
Exactly.
Absolutely. Although that's a very rational way of thinking of things.
It's very true.
I know
Not
that may
everybody
not
does
be
that.
the prevailing, but yeah, generally nice to talk about, to see the thing that you're talking about, positive or negative.
True.
When
Yes.
you start passing off your opinion.
Absolutely.
Ed, what do you think about this? The success of a movie that had a $70 million budget, which is a lot smaller than some of these huge movies that we're comparing it to, and making as big of a profit as it did. Do you think we're going to see more superhero movies or movies in general with that mid-range budget?
I mean, I don't want to, do anything untoward in the punch bowl, but it seems as though saying that, as Dan has alluded to and everybody else has, this is the freaking Joker, 75 years of history and cultural touchstoneism, or whatever you want to call it. Therefore, it isn't your typical $70 million movie. You put Stone Cold Steve Austin in a $70 million actioner and see how that thing tanks. You know what I mean? Like, and I love him, and I love
Shade at Steve Austin.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, launching what they used to do in the 80s is do the equivalent of a $70 million movie, and occasionally they get a Schwarzenegger, but mostly they get the Frank Stallone of the world or whatever, and they can make a little money. Sometimes you get Chuck Norris, proto Chuck Norris. Sometimes you use that amount of money in those times, you could build a little. They thought they could make Jeff Speakman a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's all types of attempts to make these mid-level actioners. This isn't the same thing. This is, as everybody's alluded to, a drama with a bunch of history and the hysteria action, like just the whole, and even Todd Phillips trolling. It was just mi piace. This whole thing. It's just perfect to make this storm of, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. To me, the Joker thing is disappointing. The whole, our cultural obsession with this loser is disappointing.
Which part is disappointing? How well it's doing financially, you mean?
No. I would never be mad at anybody's money. I'm just saying our fascination with this particular clown is just so weird to me. And like people doing cosplay of him, it just seems like wearing a whole like Cleveland Browns uniform. Just putting on the orange helmet, useless cleats that you clump around your office. That's what the Joker is to me. People who identify with him, the whole thing, me personally, hot take Sally, I just don't like it. It's not cool.
What about...
But it's great.
Hot take salad now,
But yeah, I would never begrudge it its success. And again, the marketing, the filming, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic.
What if this had been a different villain? Because they're talking about doing possible standalone Mr. Freeze, Riddler, all of those movies.
If they did one of those and it was approaching this, I think it would be pretty cool, but I doubt it.
I think, too, that it's like, and it is a bigger part of the conversation, and it's something you were talking about, is that this is, at the end of the day, like, yes, it is a film, but you still have that name of Joker attached to it, which is automatically going to help drive your box office results.
The highest grossing Batman movies have the Joker in it. Well, some of them. Maybe there's one or two that don't. But yeah.
Honest number
part of it.
from you guys, if this had been the exact same movie and had not been called Joker, if this had been called Clown or whatever, insert title here.
Right, and it was not about the Joker, and there was no Gotham involved or anything.
Still same actor, same team behind it. Yeah. How much worse do you think this movie actually would have done, Dan?
Well, it wouldn't have had a $70 million budget.
Yeah, no.
That's a big point, and thusly not the marketing. We're talking about how this marketing was low, but it was much higher than your average.
It would have been probably a well-regarded, smaller independent release. May have been probably a respectable performance at the box office, but
they would have liked it at film festivals.
Yeah. Well, like You Were Never There, which is a great movie with him.
You Were Never Really There.
You Were Never Really There.
Yeah. Never really here.
Never really here. Yeah.
I saw that. I was freaked out, man.
That's what this would do.
That's what this would do.
Yeah.
Without Joker
this one better.
in the title.
Right.
Possibly.
What I think this really underscores is, and it's a question I get a lot of time with charting, when you look at a movie that makes, let's say, $500 million, and we'll talk about how it was a flop. And like, how can a movie that made $500 million be a flop? Well, look at
how much
Aquaman,
it cost,
which made $1 billion worldwide, and took home a profit of $260 million, which means that even a huge hit, now that's a great profit, but it just goes to show you that when you look at the number, 75% of that movie's money went back to production, back to promotion and advertising, went to the theaters, the slice that they take out for, and it's an even bigger slice, particularly in China. So when you look at that number, it's not like they get all of that money back. So when there is a movie, when somebody, like when I'll talk about a movie like Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I'll say like it was a box office disappointment, and they'll say it made 500 some odd or 400 some odd $1 million. Well, yes, but it cost 150, and it cost another 100 to promote, and you didn't get back nearly as much money than you needed. Because, Aquaman, huge hit, can't deny it, still gave 75% of its money. Like, those are the margins that these studios are working with, which is why when these movies underperform, it's such a big deal.
The ones going on right now, Gemini Man, just $75 million loss, which it's, it still made millions of dollars, but it lost millions more.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
Dan,
what
you would
happens.
know, how much did that cost to make?
They put way too much into Gemini Man. It was over $100 million.
See, and that's silly.
Because it was the
anybody.
HFR. Because the production to shoot 120 frames per second, you have to light it differently. The equipment is more. Plus the digital animation they were doing with the young Will Smith character was like cutting edge CG. Like they dumped well over $100 million into that movie.
I'm seeing like 120 to anywhere from 1 to 150.
120 to 150.
Yeah.
That's silly. That's something you make for $8 million.
And you're banking on the fact that people are going to go see it because it's a spectacle.
Because it's Will Smith twice.
Will Smith,
Two times.
So when you see a movie like Gemini Man, it's just like it had a budget of 135, and let's say it made 100 worldwide. People are like, well, that's not so bad. Like that's actually really
it's terrible.
bad.
Yeah.
What do you guys think with the legs of this movie? Are we going to see Joker keep going and going, or do you guys think we've pretty much tapped out with what we're going to see profit-wise?
It's got a good shot at being number one at the box office again this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those
That
movies.
is insane. How many weeks has this been in theaters?
This will be its fourth week, I believe, in theaters. Yeah. It's
Wow,
it really is
Isn't that
one of those
crazy?
movies that just you can make a good movie, but sometimes for whatever reason the clouds part and you just hit at a moment that just bolts you to the top and you just stay there, and that's been the case with this movie. And sometimes for whatever reason all of the right elements come together and you get a movie like this, and that's what we're seeing.
Do you mean moment like October or moment in society?
Just you name it. I don't think that when Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix and the group behind this movie started the process of making this movie about a year ago that they would know just the situation societally, culturally, politically, the discussions that would be going on, the fact that this movie would dovetail with a discussion that's already being had about culture and how and people who isolate themselves and mental illness and everything else. Like there's such a hot button topic already, and the last year I think that's ramped up. It's just one of those things where it just was the movie that came out at a time that was perfect for what it was about to stimulate discussion and conversation.
Super curious. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, and not to give the filmmaker short shrift, but I do believe that society makes movies as well. And so it wasn't just like, oh, I'm a genius, I just came up with this. It's like Todd Phillips had already experienced all of this anti-comedy that's happening, which I don't agree with. I'm as left as they come. But when you come for comedy, you come for me. You come for my ability to punch back. We talk about punching up, punching down, punching sideways. I want to punch. And I don't want anybody limiting my ability to punch with their goofy-ass political correctness. So I'm definitely on a lot of the times on the wrong side of history on some of these things as far as so-called progress. But so I think me and Phillips would have some things to say. But again, this isn't funny. And he was smart to not try to do anything funny in this climate, not because you can't, not that goofy ass thing. Not because you can't, but because he can't.
Sure.
So get in there with the crazy boys and make the crazy boy movie for all the crazy boys. Do that. That's your niche. That's what you got.
What can't he do though? Like what couldn't
I don't think he can be funny right now.
You think if he put out Hangover today, he would not be able to?
Can't.
I think that
it's got druggings in it. It's got the I don't want to be this guy, but when those four dudes got in that cop car and drove it up on the sidewalk, I just checked out. Nobody I know would be able to get away with anything like that. The whole police section, it wasn't even plausible. Like most times you see other movies, there's some plausible deniability. Watch Dope. for plausible deniability of wrongdoings and different stuff, people plausibly got away with some things.
I like
in that
both
movie.
movies.
I think
I
they're
don't
both
think-
good, but one's my cup of tea and one isn't.
Well, we are a little off topic, but
I'm sorry.
No,
It's
I'm
just
glad. I'm glad that you said that. And
No.
also curious your guys' thoughts at home. What do you think? Are you surprised with how much profit Joker actually is making? Do you want to see a Joker 2, and what are the chances that that would have an equal high profit? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're here, and hit that bell. You hit it before I even said it. You got a little anxious over there. Hit that bell. We would love to hear from you guys. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Also, Galaxy Quest documentary, guys. The trailer is out. We partner with Fathom to release the doc in theaters November 26th. That's November 26th. Click the link in the description to buy your tickets and picture with tickets.
Yeah, no, we're doing a thing now. If send us, tweet us with the hashtag Never Surrender, which is the name of the documentary. Tweet us a picture of you and your ticket, and then if you first of all, if you were just say hey, look at that, I got my ticket, we'd love to know that we have your support. But
That's
also
great.
if you got a question, if you have a fan question or a request, something like that, we would love to answer those and show the picture on the show, say thanks on the show. So yeah, if you want to send us a picture of you with your Never Surrender ticket, we'd love to see it.
I love that.
Tweet it to us at Screen Junkies, right, yeah, that's probably the best. At Screen Junkies
U.
or at Screen Junkies U, and send us a picture of you and your ticket. Hashtag Never Surrender, and we'll hopefully get a chance to say thank you on the air.
November 26th. Again, the tickets are in the description below. Now let's get to some El Camino, guys. Who's seen El Camino at the table? Just curious. Okay, so over here. Were you guys Breaking Bad fans?
I definitely was.
But didn't want to watch the movie? Or just haven't gotten around to it yet?
Me personally, just this is my not hot take, and I'm going to end on this. I think I liked the ending I was presented with.
So
And I think
you
it's-
were
I think it's
satisfied
okay.
already?
Yeah, I was very satisfied.
Same with you, Emma?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm hearing that from a lot of people, and I'm hearing that a lot of people have watched it. So that's why I was a little surprised with the lack of everybody watching it, that this came out via The Verge. According to Netflix, El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, was watched by 25,734,392 households in its first 7 days. That's a lot of households, guys.
I mean, also, especially considering the fact that a lot of people share Netflix accounts.
Yeah. What? Netflix is attempting to be more transparent with its creatives about how it counts a view on an original series or movie. We've had a lot of discussion in this room before on what does it mean when Netflix says something's doing well? What does that mean? So they've been trying to be more transparent. And a letter sent to the British government includes 3 new descriptors: starters, watchers, and completers. So I will say I'm a completer.
It's tracking how much of the thing you're watching, like with a YouTube video.
Exactly. So here's what qualifies as a
Mm-hmm.
starter: the household that watched 2 minutes of a film or 1 episode in a series. A completer are households that watch 90% of a film or a season of a series. And the third data set is watchers, a more general metric that Netflix often includes in its quarterly earning letters to shareholders and shares with the public. So I don't really know what a more general.
Well, it's somebody that's watched 70% of a movie or 1 episode in a series. Our watchers.
But the 1 episode in the series is also a starter.
Well, no, starters are you watch 2 minutes of a film or episode. So you just have to watch 2 minutes
of
any
film
episode.
Or an episode.
Or 2 minutes of one episode.
One episode. So a starter is
got it.
I watched 2 minutes of the first episode.
Because I was going to say
Stranger Things. You get counted as a starter.
A starter,
Got it.
sure. Because I was going to say, I was like, is this based on the percentage of the overall thing? Because it's like a whole episode of a series or 2 minutes of a movie. But now that makes a lot more sense.
Guys, in life, don't be a starter. You got to be a watcher or a completer. At least be a watcher. You don't want to be a starter of things. Just life lessons here on SJU. But in general, with this, do you guys think that A, do you think that number is real? And B, do you think that is a high number, a low number? Where do you stand with it? Dan, I'm starting with you because, again, more numbers,
knowing that it's broken down now that's now the question.
Mm-hmm.
Do they, because that same article said that Stranger Things, for example.
Right.
They said that 4 million households had watched the new season of Stranger Things. The article says that number was their watcher number, which meant when they said that 64 million people had watched Stranger Things, that meant that 64 million households had watched
70%?
70%, at least 70% of one episode of Stranger Things. That doesn't account for how many people finished it, how many people watched one episode and didn't watch.
Not a TV show.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the question now that you have to ask when they say Breaking Bad was seen by 25,734,392 households. Without further context, now that we know what these categories are, we don't know, is that the starter number? Because if 25 million households watched 2 minutes of the movie,
They might not have even clicked on it ever. It might have just started playing.
Autoplay.
I want to say that I definitely could have been autoplay. I think too with this that autoplay is certainly accounting for a certain percentage of this number. However, I think that this number is likely to be a little bit more accurate than, say, a number for a new Netflix series, like something like I don't know, like a Dark Crystal or something, where you're seeking out something new. With this, or not even seeking out something new, you're coming across something new. With this is one of those Netflix properties that I've actually seen heavily advertised, and Netflix doesn't always heavily advertise their original content. And also, you have to account for the fact that most of the people that are people are actively seeking this out because they are fans of Breaking Bad. There's not many people that are just like, I'm going to watch this El Camino movie. I have a PlayStation controller in my hand. I was like, what am I doing?
I thought you were thumbs upping.
No.
Good job.
Constantly.
2 thumbs up all the way. What I think is interesting is that I actually thought this movie rocked, which I was surprised about because I didn't watch it until, I don't know, 5 days, 6 days after it dropped. And I had heard crickets. It was not that much noise out there. I don't know whether you guys have completely different timelines on Twitter than I do, but there was just not that many people talking about it. And when I watched it, I was like, wait, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Why are none of my friends watching it? So to me, this was a huge number if it's accurate on how many people actually watched.
Well, I mean, they're a publicly traded company, so I don't think that they could I don't think they could outright lie.
Right. I'm not saying outright lie, but they're saying it was watched by. Is that watched by? Does that mean watchered by?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. That's the question.
And now that we have this context, that's what we don't know. Is when they say watched by, 25 million people watching 2 minutes of this movie, or 20 million of those people watched 2 minutes and 5 million of them finished it. That's not quite as impressive as 18 million people watched 70% of the movie, and 5 million people watched all of it, and only 3 million turned it off. And that's also why, part of the reason why they're trying to be more transparent and why people are frustrated, they get their shows canceled because they hear these numbers and they don't know what it means. Yeah. They don't know what when you say watched, or what does that mean?
Because breaking it down into these 3 categories, and we were talking about this a little bit, this idea of autoplay, like you could get something in theory that just for whatever reason is getting queued up in a lot of people's autoplays on Netflix, and so suddenly this documentary about penguins seems to have 60 million views, but in actuality it was autoplaying on the end of something else, so these people just got 2 minutes
starters,
in. Exactly. Well, they didn't even mean to start it. Netflix made them start it.
If that worked, they would have did it with Iron Fist.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, that would have been like Bono and them, and you're in your iPod already. Like, what?
You're like, why is Iron Fist playing?
Fine, hot take. I liked Iron Fist. It is what it is.
Or like Pop Star, you open the refrigerator and his song is coming out of it.
What do you make of all this, Ed? What do you think about that number?
Numbers schmumbers.
Dan's heart hurts
No. Do not try to stoke the natural coyote and roadrunner of me and Dan. Okay? You don't have to stoke that. It's always brewing. Now, look, this is my thing. I agree with Dan very much, and letting Emma make her point, but Dan's absolutely right. I hope that these numbers are not used, and this is nothing against charting or the thing of charting, but I don't care that Joe Schmo knows what a hit is on Netflix. I care that artists get a fair shake and a fair metric for when their stuff gets canceled.
Yeah.
That's what I care about. And that's why these numbers are important.
You were saying if Netflix is going to cancel a series or not do a sequel to a movie or whatever it is, then you need to say...
Work. When you cancel them one day at a time and this, that, and the other, show your work. Show why it got canceled. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because traditionally, I mean, if up until now, if you had a show on network television, you didn't need. You didn't need the person you're making the show for to tell you how it was doing.
No,
you have
you
ratings.
could look it up.
Right.
So you knew exactly how many, or at least a rough estimation of how many people. And now you're making this thing, and you don't know what numbers they're sharing with you.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah, Netflix is kind of like it's like a YouTube or a Twitch or anywhere that you can support like streaming content, but without that like
View count.
ticker at the bottom.
But Ed, going back to what you were saying, let me ask you, why is that so important to you that they share the numbers? Because you feel like they're canceling shows because of what, not the numbers?
No. I just think it's so amorphous right now. People can say whatever conspiracy theory they want as to why their favorite little show got canceled.
But what I mean is, why would Netflix be canceling shows if it wasn't based on the numbers?
I mean, I think.
Are you saying that's what you think is happening?
I think certain times you can gauge the growth potential of something on one season. You look at it and you go, I don't know that us doing a whole bunch more of these is going to do a whole bunch more. I think sometimes they look at certain numbers and make those assessments.
Okay. I think I understand exactly what you're saying is the idea. It's not. They are canceling it based on numbers, but it's numbers, but they're
that
just,
don't exist yet.
Yeah, well, and they're also just looking at a straight number instead of, as you say, gauging the growth potential of something.
Well, yeah, like I think Stranger Things at the end of season 1, you could see from the people who were like at the end of its run as season 1, still clicking in. You could see like, oh boy, all right, if we make a couple more of these, it'll be at least one more season.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, as Dan has alluded to several times. You get expensive for Netflix around season 3.
Yeah.
You get expensive for them. And so if if they got El Camino
Netflix.
right next to the one about the tall girl and the one that don't want to eat or whatever,
because,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, because your basic Netflix contract as an actor, as production, etc., is like a lot less than your standard like network television contract. So Ed's absolutely right. Like as a show gains legs and popularity, like Netflix has to start shelling out more money for it. So
well, it's like Mark Twain. I think it's Mark Twain that lies, damn lies, and statistics. You can take, and that's what charting has been about, and what I like to do about the show. It's not just throwing numbers at you, because numbers can say anything and they can look any way that you want them to look. It's all about the context behind the numbers, and I think that's what this is about. It's not just about what are the numbers, because Netflix releases the numbers whenever they want, but there's no context.
Correct.
There's no context behind them, and with no context, they're meaningless, and they can be made to say anything you want. And I think what a lot of the creators of shows that have been canceled are, like Netflix might come to them and say like, well, only 500,000 people completed your show. Okay, but how many people watched it? Because if 5 million people watched it,
right,
or part of it, then that could indicate that maybe the base is growing, or that you pump up a show like a Stranger Things or a movie like Adam Sandler. They certainly are invested in making it look like Adam Sandler is popular on their platform because they signed a big deal with him. They want him to re-sign. When you say 30 million people watch Murder Mystery, okay, how much of it?
How much of it? Did they start it? Watch it?
So, Dan, do you think that they should be releasing that information to the public or the creators, like Ed is saying?
I think that they are a privately owned company, and they are in charge of what they do or do not wish to release to the public. It's certainly annoying to me as a box office guy that they do not release any figures of any of their movies. I wonder, like with The Irishman, are we just never going to know how it does in theaters? So that's annoying to me, but that's certainly their prerogative. I think they owe it to their creators to give them an honest and complete accounting of how their shows are doing, if they can make improvements, and if they are being canceled, what the reasoning behind that is. I don't think that's an unreasonable ask.
Let me ask you guys this. Is it just because Netflix is so much bigger of a platform that we care a lot more about them not releasing their numbers than the other streaming services that are out there whose numbers we don't know about?
They're a leader. They're an industry leader in a way, so they take a lot of the flack because, they're the first ones that we look to.
They were sort of the prototype in a lot of ways.
And isn't Amazon publicly traded?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there is that that sort of private, like, we have our private stash of stuff, and we'll give you the stats if we would like to, and it's a cauldron.
They all answer to people above.
At Amazon.
They all have stockholders or sponsors.
Apple even.
And I don't know legally,
like,
what Netflix has to disclose to their investors and what they don't have to disclose.
Sure.
And, they can't lie about profits, but as ratings, that's above my pay grade. I don't.
It's also not as fun to talk about, so we won't.
But I do think that it is something that internally they should be forthright about.
Sure.
Well, they might not care about being as transparent with the fans, but we certainly do, which is why here on Fan Friday, you guys see what I did there.
Good
We're going to get to a fan question. I don't know if we have that drop for Fan Friday. No, okay, so I'll just pretend to do the dance and look, just picture me as Spenny. It's me, Spenny G. Great. Let's get into this. Caitlin Ryan asked this question. What is your favorite redemption arc in TV or film? Mine is Zuko from The Last Airbender. It was timed out so perfectly and didn't go in a perfect straight line. The creators made sure it felt organic and realistic. Star, Jamie.
Star, Jamie.
Unclear. But thank you to Caitlin Ryan for the question. So let's start over there with you, Ed. Favorite redemption arc in TV or film? So you only have a couple things to pick from. It's a very narrow pool.
I don't know. I was going to go hot take with it, but you know what? I think I'll go heartwarming. In the last few years, I'll say Yondu and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, I love Yondu.
I think, and it's a populist pick and it has a little bit of recency bias. I'll caveat it with that. But with all that said, you got somebody who's chasing fools around trying to eat them. You got somebody who's exploiting people. You got somebody who raised somebody just to use them. You got da-da-da-da-da. And at the end of it, he's done so much cool stuff and murdered for the good guys so much, and he's proved himself in a certain way, and we see certain backstory as to why he treated young Peter Quill the way he did, and what his overall end game was throughout all that. And then when he's not on this plane anymore, there's all this beautiful celebration of his life, and the people who forsook him come to him and go, you know what? I have to pay tribute to how cool you are and how you earned the right to be amongst us. You earned the right for this super space Viking funeral. That's just like tears. You know what I mean? It's like beautiful.
It's good. I'm surprised you didn't say Joker, but that was the second one I thought you were going to say. I agree, though. It's a great one. Emma, what's yours?
Well, I mean, Caitlin, great pick, by the way. Zuko's redemption arc in Last Airbender is just beautifully executed. Mine, I'm going to say, is Agent Callus from Star Wars Rebels. Tell me more. He starts off as an Imperial officer, and he's very much like a Javert kind of character of he's so lawful good but like his lawful good is I'm part of the Empire. I serve the Empire. I have to do that. And then through his friendship that he develops with Zeb, who's part of the Ghost crew, he kind of starts to like see the cracks in the Empire. Oh my God, it's so good. The episode where they get like stranded on a planet together is amazing, and then like spoilers, they just like run off and live happily ever. Oh my God, it's so good.
You liked it?
I did. I loved it. Yeah.
I love how both of you guys just light up when talking about this.
Well, somebody being
redemption's
saved.
cool.
Yeah, somebody being saved from abject fascism is awesome.
100%. And that's the thing is that like is it such a like I mean, especially when you look at obviously there's a lot of like redemption story arcs that happen within Star Wars canon, but this one is just handled. This is just like about a normal dude. There's no force involved. It's just about a person who like has their very like life beliefs shook to the core and realizes that like they've been on the inside of something that's bad. It's done so well.
Dan, top that. What do you got?
This sounds dumb, and I'm sure there's a lot that I'm overlooking, but this is what popped in my head. And it may be assigning too much importance to a stupid thing, but the T-800. I'm serious.
I don't think that's stupid.
Great.
It's a great one.
And
that's awesome.
I know it's two different ones, but it's the same. But I feel like
that model.
It's that model. But it's wholly evil in the first one, and
it's the same Arnold Schwarzenegger.
In Terminator 2, at the beginning, he's not so much good as he's neutral. Mm-hmm. He's there to protect, but it's still just his mission. And then you get to the end of the movie, and he says, I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do. It's like he comes to a full. He goes from a cyborg that has nothing, that is there to destroy humanity, literally, to a cyborg that understands humanity. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this evil dude from the first movie, by the end of it, he's doing the thumbs up, and you're going down into the lava. Again, it's. I know it's not the same actual physical corporeal cyborg, but it's that idea of that model of and that's why I think that when people say like, what, I wonder like, why do we revere movies that seem like popcorn flicks like Aliens and the Terminator movies and Back to the Future? It's because a lot of times they were made, and some still are made, but not as many. They were actually made with care, and paid attention to things like character and story, and even in the shoot 'em up robot Cyborg. From the future time travel movie, you injected heart and character into that, and so those from the beginning of 1 to the end of 2, I just love how they took this evil, the bad guy from the first movie, and made him like you're crying for him at the end of it, and I liked how they did that. I know that there's probably so many great literary ones and the best movies of all time, but literally the only thing I can think of was the T-8.
That's a good one, though.
I think that there are in movies, because you guys both picked movies, but I feel like TV is really the medium to do this, because you have so long to redeem somebody. So all of mine come from television and are silly, but like, anybody watch The Good Place? Ted Danson's character in The Good Place.
The Good Place.
I mean, like what they've done with him is just, it's wild. Like,
Yes.
It's insane.
Because like you're demon. So it's just so good.
Spoilers if you've not watched The Good Place.
But just watch it.
Oh my God,
just watch
it's
it.
so great.
Just rock it right through that bad boy on Netflix.
On Netflix.
Yeah, I think comedies have a great way of doing this, but also a lot of characters from Lost, like Sawyer.
Yeah,
that was one of my favorite characters.
And even
Charlie, like,
Eleanor, has a great redemption arc.
She does, in
that
Place.
show.
So, like I say, always TV wins. big TV gal. Anyway, guys, that's our show for today. Stick around because we've got an awesome interview with the director of the Lighthouse, and don't worry, Robert Pattinson is there. He also is talking. He does one Batman thing, so I know you guys will be interested in that. It's always required. Eric Goldman sat down with them to do the interview, so you're going to want to stay around and check that out. But before we do that, Ed, where can everybody keep up with you?
Oh, at Ed Greer Destroys on Twitter, and you can check out my podcast, Nerd Goat Podcast. It is really cool. We talk about people's favorite fictional characters.
Are there any hot takes?
Oh yeah. And we're working on a thing called Reboot It with Billy Business. So that's where the hot takes come in.
Damn.
But yeah, Dan's episode is still one of the champ episodes. I think if you want to start Nerd Goat, start with Dan's episode. It's nice.
Charting right now. His episode.
Oh yeah, it's charting. Yes.
Appropriately.
Boom.
Yeah.
You're killing it today, kid.
I wrote down all these jokes beforehand. Emma, where can everybody find you?
I am all over the internet wherever Emma Fyffes are sold at Emma Fyffe. I have a couple things coming up that I can't quite talk about just yet, but I will.
If they follow you on social media,
follow
you'll
me
say.
on Twitter. Check out my website, emmafyfe.com. All that stuff.
And Dan?
You can find me here charting, obviously, on Monday. We'll be talking about the box office, see if Joker's still number one. There's some reviews that are out right now. As I'm going back in my mind, well, I don't have to because it's definitely Friday, but you can see a review.
Friday, yes.
Countdown, which is in theaters now. You can see a review for that here on Fandom Entertainment. Plus, there's a lot of great reviews for some big awards movies coming out soon. We're going to try to do Terminator, still working on that, hopefully next week. Check it out.
Great, and I'm everywhere at Roxy Striar. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow!
This movie is almost entirely Willem and Robert on screen together, obviously. You know they're two great actors, but what was it about the combination of the two of them that felt like this is the right energy to have them bouncing off each other?
You know, it's such a good question, and I still haven't spent any time thinking of a good answer. But, people have said that there's ways in which they wonder, is this the same person? Is this father and son? So the fact that they both have cheekbones and noses and teeth is a good thing, if you know what I'm saying. If there was an Esquire cover in the UK where they clean them up and they look like, estranged, sexy vampire father and son, I figured we needed people who are going to sign up for getting punished by weather and have to do incredibly challenging things like physical things, and who would be up for it? Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Plus, they're incredible actors, and I couldn't think of anyone else who could possibly play these roles and inhabit them the way that these two gentlemen do.
And this movie looked challenging to make. What was one of the biggest challenges of filming this?
it's funny. I guess it felt challenging, like working with the elements and stuff. But I mean, I think it's one of those nice little things where every challenging aspect of it fed into the character, because you're basically the same challenges you're facing making the movie are the exact same challenges you're facing in the scene, and so you're never really going against it. But you know, it's just kind of, it was like really cold and raining and stuff. But it's nice if you're I think it's more frustrating to have to play it being cold and raining rather than just like, if it's just cold and raining all the time and you don't have to fake it.
Right. There's another question very much amused me because there's a lot of bodily functions in this film.
Yes, any fluid that a biologically male body can excrete is featured.
Yes, and certain sounds. And, you know, there's movie magic, of course, but someone asked, was it stinky on set?
Yes. Yeah, it was really foul on set by the end.
And then someone asked, what made you opt for black and white for the film?
On a very simple surface level, it's old-timey and it's an old movie. It takes place in a time when black and white photography existed. But more importantly, it conveys the bleak and austere lifestyle and world of these two lighthouse keepers. I don't think that color would help the movie at all. I think it would only hinder it.
Now, The Lighthouse, of course, is a black and white film. It's Halloween season, and someone asked, what's your favorite black and white horror film?
This is a movie called Eyes Without a Face. I love that movie so much. It's a French horror movie from the 60s. It's really, really, really good. About a plastic surgeon whose daughter loses her face, and he's going around trying to perfect his face transplant surgery, finding girls who look like his daughter and taking their faces and putting them on his daughter. It's absolutely terrifying.
What did you think when you saw the visual style of The Lighthouse and what Robert was going for?
I think it's like, I love something when something's very, very ambitious in its desires, and it kind of, I knew that Robert, at the first page of the script, it was very specific, saying it's going to be in this aspect, it's going to be an Academy aspect ratio, it's going to be on black and white negative, and it's going to have a mono soundtrack. And I've never seen that in a script before. It's saying, no, before we've done anything, this is the aesthetic, this is the look of it. And it's kind of nice. It makes you sort of relax. You know someone knows exactly what they want. But it's so cool. I think people are really enjoying the sort of experiential aspect of it. It clearly doesn't look like anything else that's in the theater at all.
You'd be shocked to find out that a few people had some questions about a small indie movie you're going to make soon called The Batman. One person asked a question I had a very odd one, which is, what did you think of previous Batman portrayals? And I'm just curious, you want to create your own completely, but is there someone that was always like a favorite to you or just connected to you?
I mean, the one when I was a kid, I loved all the Tim Burton ones. I mean, that's kind of, I think anybody who's kind of around about my age, they made such a massive impression. And that's my first memory of any kind of superhero comic book movie as well. I absolutely loved those when they came out.